Oh, geez. Oh, sorry. Ladder.
Let's go ahead and make your way to your seats.
Vamos a todos pasar a sus asientos.
See your name
Oh,
tag.
sorry.
Oh, good. I got this marker. All right. Good morning, good afternoon-ish to everyone. I'll call the December 4th. Oh, got to do that first. December 4th Shoreline Preservation Working Group to order at 11:31. And first, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. This is the announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are, click on the interpretation icon, World, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, the three dots, then interpretation, then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés, en el fondo, por favor, seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en este vestíbulo. That concludes the instructions for interpretation.
Very good. Thank you. Next, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Duigeño, the Luiseño, the Cupino, and the Kuwaya. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. And now, will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I will ask the clerk, Michael Garcia, to confirm that we have a quorum.
We do have a quorum, Chair.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right, that brings us to item number 2, non-agenda, public comments and member comments. Michael, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We have no non-agenda public comments. Wait, yes, we do. Sorry. We have Cesar Javier, followed by Purita Javier.
I believe they're
Right, they're
not
no
here.
longer here, so no public comment, Chair.
Oh, very good. Okay. Do we have any member comments? Board member comments today? Okay, great. Oh, we do? I didn't see you. Sorry, Amy.
I'm sorry. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon. I guess we're almost
Yeah.
still morning. I just wanted to let you know that I met with Ron Flick. He came down to Coronado and we looked at South Beach, which is the stretch of beach in front of our high rise, the shores. And I was talking to him about how much sand we'd lost. And he went home that evening looking at the satellite images and was able to determine that we've lost 200 feet of sand in the last 2 years. And so this is something that I've been noticing. And there's very, very little sand at high tide. It's pretty much on the rocks. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
Very good. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. We have one item, approval of the meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval?
I move approval.
Very good. And a second?
I'll second.
Very good. All right, can we call for the vote?
Can I confirm the second, Chair? Who was the second?
Amy Stewart.
Oh, thank you.
And we were going with Bruce Ehlers as the first. They were at the same time. All right, and first, do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
We have no public comment, Chair.
Okay, we can go ahead and vote on that item then.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention from U.S. Navy, and that motion passes with those members present.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right, let's go on to our first report. We will be updating SANDAG shoreline policies, and I'm going to turn this over to Keith Greer.
Good morning, members of the working group. How are you doing today? Happy holidays. So the first report on your agenda today is a discussion item related to the update of the SANDAG shoreline policies. And you may recall this is one of the items on your work plan that we're going to start on after the first of the year, and it'll probably take us about 18 months to complete this. And I'll get into exactly what it is in a second. But I want to give you kind of a little background of why we're doing this and kind of where we're proposing to take this. So I think many of you know that we used to have one of the strongest El Niños on record back in 1983. And there was a lot of coastal damage that occurred. The Coastal Commission determined it was $1.2 billion of damage on the state of California. A lot of the piers up and down the coast were damaged, or in some cases actually completely destroyed. And there was a lot of concern about all the sand that was lost on the beaches at that point in time. And what this led to was the proliferation of seawalls up and down the San Diego specifically, but California in general, through the 1990s. So there was concerns that, as you know, that when you have seawalls, it leads to changes on either side of the seawalls and is a general loss of sand at the beaches. So with that in mind, the San Diego region came together and formed a committee at the time, which has evolved over the years to become what is the Shoreline Preservation Working Group today. And those, through that leadership of the Shoreline Preservation Working Group, there was a series of policy documents that were created throughout the 1990s and currently that kind of guide the region in terms of how the shoreline preservation, shoreline management, and even our beach nourishment projects proceed. The oldest document, the 1993 document, was the Shoreline Preservation Strategy. It was adopted by the SANDAG board. And there was subsequent kind of add-ons to that, Regional Beach Sand Retention Strategy in 2001, a sand-compatible opportunistic use program in 2006, and Coastal Sediment Management Plan in 2009. So over the years, you've seen that through the guidance of the Shoreline Preservation Working Group, you've adopted several policies. And those policies help us with regional shoreline preservation strategy, for example, like how big should the beaches be? How the beaches should be managed? How often do we do nourishment? And so that's great. What we have come to notice, though, is that now it's many years since the adoption of some of those plans and policies, and we need to kind of review them. So we mentioned at the last meeting that we're going through an effort, about 18-month effort, to consolidate all these policies into one document. to up them using the best available science and lessons learned over the past 30 years that we've had done shoreline management in San Diego, and to revise if necessary and to reflect any kind of best practices or updated policies at the state level. And so that's the update of the policy documents. We'll be starting this in January. And the thing is how we're going to do that. So some of you have heard the term task force. You may be questioning, what's the difference between a task force and a working group? So a task force in SANDAG's terms is a short-term, non-Brown Act group. It allows for an in-depth discussion on specific technical topics. And we do these all the time. We have a habitat task force. We have a shoreline, bayshore bikeway task force. And these are like discrete task force. They talk about a specific topic for a specific time, and then they stop. So we're proposing to form a task force on the updated policy documents. And in this case, some of you may have known we did one of these a couple of years ago for the Oceanside littoral cell. We looked at the science, and we're going to do the same thing now, looking at the policy. So what we're looking for is 3 to 5 members of the working group to participate. We have to have less than a quorum because you're a Brown Act body here. If you have more than a quorum, then it's a shoreline preservation working group. So we're looking for volunteers, 3 to 5 members of the voting members. And then, of course, any technical advisors are welcome to come. And the SANDAG staff will be inviting other experts to join. There's lots of people out there that have expertise. We want to kind of garner that expertise into the working groups itself. While it's not a Brown Act working group, members of the public are also welcome to attend and listen in. So we anticipate there'll be about 5 meetings over the next 12 months. There'll be about 2 hours in depth, and we'll have a specific topic on each meeting that we want to get into. And you see here we have like defining the vision and strategy for shoreline preservation. Shoreline monitoring and lagoon management will be a topic. Sand retention devices, when they should be considered, and then economics and funding. The idea is the task force kind of is the sausage making, and the recommendation is SANDAG staff, and then we bring it back to you and for a discussion about the policies themselves. So let me just show you a proposed schedule before I conclude on the request today. Here's the proposed schedule. It's also attachment A of your report. And we're going to be starting this off in the first of the year with the first kind of major thing being brought to this working group, which is a discussion in March on the science behind shoreline preservation. Scripps is doing some phenomenal work right now, using some of the LiDAR technology and some satellites. And we want to kind of have that highlighted and have a discussion about this working group to bring you up to the current state of the science. We then will go through a period of 4 meetings starting in May through December of next year, having a conversation about these very specific topics that I mentioned, to kind of delve into areas that we think need to either be discussed, be possibly revised, or just kind of elaborated upon. Starting in January of 2027, we hope to bring forward a policy document draft to first the task force, and then later in that springtime to the working group itself, and then get the input from you all, and then release it to public review for a 60-day period. That concludes with the final kind of shoreline preservation working group in June 2027, where we go over the final shoreline policy document update, and then we bring it to the board and our PACs and our board later on in the fall. So that's the proposed schedule. What the request is today is any members interested in serving on the task force, they can contact Courtney at the email here. You can think about it today. You don't have to volunteer today. And that way, when we have your names, we'll make sure we have less than a quorum, and we'll start our first full meeting with the task force sometime in May. So spring first report, and then we'll report back periodically as Shoreline Preservation Working Group on the progress of that task force. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer questions you may have.
Thank you. That sounds like a great organized way to do this. So thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Carol.
Mr. Greer, in Imperial Beach, we don't have the problems what they have. We have the problem of not having sand replenished from the river, the Tijuana River, and that would solve Imperial Beach's problem from not having, we wouldn't have to dredge as much sand because the river provided so much that it's blocked now and it provides nothing. And Coronado benefited from our sand that we got off that Tijuana River. So what they're doing for North County would not fit the mold for Imperial Beach because we need replenishment from the natural source that was cut off.
Yeah, so that's a great example of one size does not fit all policies. So as we're going through these policy documents, there's 3 littoral cells in San Diego. the imperial, so sort of stand littoral cell, may have different set of policies because it's different needs down there. And that's exactly what we want to get into and start having a discussion about as part of the policy group.
And I would love to be on that task force to make sure Imperial Beach gets what they need.
Thank you.
It sounds like a good idea to maybe have one from each littoral cell. That might be, hopefully that would work out.
That would be fabulous.
Great. Okay, do we have any public comments on this item?
We do have one public comment online, and the name is actually Motorola Edge 2024. You and R, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead. You seem to be self-muted still. All right, well, feel free to email your comment to clerkoftheboard@sandag.org, and we'll ensure to get it to the committee. We do have a hand raised, especially by Mayor Gasterlin, who's not participating as a member today.
Unmute. All right. I'm sorry I can't be there today. I had a work conflict so that I wasn't able to actually drive and be there. But I sent an email earlier saying I'm happy to be on this task force. I learned so much being chair of our sea level rise adaptation planning committee for 4 years in Del Mar. So I'm really, I'm eager to bring that to the table. And I would advocate that we have as many as possible, not just the 3 littoral cells, but perhaps 5 people on this task force if we have an overlap from other littoral cells. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
And that concludes our public comment on the item, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, well, if anybody wants to do that, you've got the email, Courtney, and we'll get that lined up. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next report, the Regional Shoreline Monitoring Program 2024 Annual Report and Open Data. This one I am going to turn over to Courtney Becker. Is that right? Yes. Okay, are you going to make the walk all the way down? Okay, we'll wait for you. We also have Greg Heron from Coastal Frontiers. Welcome.
Thank you all for waiting. My name is Courtney Becker. I am the project manager for the Regional Shoreline Monitoring Program. And today's presentation will be a 2-part. The first half of the presentation will be talking about the current state of the report, that state of the coast that our consultant Greg Heron from Coastal Frontiers will be presenting on. And the second half will be me unveiling the draft Open Data Portal dashboard. And with me here today is Dr. Leon Tien, who's our principal data scientist on our data science team, who helped us make this Open Data Portal. So with that, I will now turn it over to Greg to talk about the state of the coast.
Thanks, Courtney. So we're going to talk about the state of the coast 2025. So we've effectively skipped over the 2024. We're usually about 6 months behind when we do this presentation. But this is going to include data collected about 6 weeks ago. The shoreline monitoring program itself is designed to measure changes in the shore zone with beach profile surveys, so a cross-sectional measurement of the beach at discrete locations. We currently have 67 sites in the program, and that includes contributions from Carlsbad, Encinitas, Solana Beach, and most recently Oceanside added 6 transects this last fall. There are 44 of those sites that we hold somewhat sacred. That has data going back consistently to fall 2000. So a lot of the information we show today will be based on those 44 transects. And so we're going to look at the findings regionally and then touch on each of the sub-reaches, which are almost effectively city level. A quick overview of the beach nourishment in the area. This is showing cumulative amount of sand placed on the beaches since the mid-1990s. Then the oceanside cell, again, that's from the harbor down to La Jolla. Over 7 million cubic yards of sand placed on the beach. Much lower volumes at the Silver Strand and Mission Beach cells. The most noteworthy events are Regional Beach Sand 1, SANDAG conducted in 2001, 2.1 million cubic yards. Regional Beach Sand 2, which was about 1.8 million cubic yards. San Elijo Lagoon Restoration Project, and most recently, the Corps of Engineers Coastal Storm Damage Reduction Project, which placed about 700,000 cubic yards at Solana Beach, and if I recall, 250 to 300 in Encinitas. So keep that in mind as we look at some of the results. So first, let's look regionally, and this is the beach condition 6 weeks ago, October 2025, or 2025, yes. And so it's kind of shown in a stoplight pattern. On the left side is the beach widths, with beach widths less than 100 feet in red shades and beach widths greater than 200 feet in green shades, yellow following in between. So you can see they're nice healthy beaches, those that are in green, and then they're the hot spots where we're have some vulnerabilities going into the winter because we have beach widths less than 100 feet. So noteworthy here, some of the hot spots, more or less, South Ocean side, South Carlsbad. And then when we look at some of the places that are doing really well, Cardiff and Solana Beach, no surprise, those areas have received the most sand over the last 25 years. On the right-hand side, we're looking at the net change between 2000 and 2025, so over the last 25 years. And we start in 2000 because that's right prior to SANDAG conducting the Regional Beach Sand Project 1. So SANDAG is now in the sand management game during this period. And so this is the net change, how much we've gained or lost in these areas over the last 25 years. And again, the red shades are going to be losses. The deeper the red, the greater the loss, and the greens are going to be gains. And so you can see that through much of the area from Oceanside down through Encinitas, losses, Cardiff and Solana Beach, gains. Again, most sand has been placed there over the last 25 years. And it looks like Del Mar's benefited as well as some materials moved down coast, particularly from Solana Beach. Let's look at the other two littoral cells quickly. The same stoplight pattern of beach widths on the left. Some pretty wide, healthy beaches there. A hot spot down in Imperial Beach, that's the southern end of the city. As the council member from Coronado said, they have a major erosion problem in part of their beaches. We have one monitoring site up in Coronado. It's located north of the area that she was referencing, north of Hotel Del, and it's actually quite wide, about 600-700 feet. So that's why if there's any apparent discrepancy between the comments that she made and what we're showing here. And then over on the right-hand side, again, the net change over 25 years, fairly stable in a lot of places, slightly increasing in some others. Imperial Beach, that hot spots on the south end of the city. So now we're going to go through these synopsis plots where we're going to look at it on a sub-reach level, which is, again, almost going to be at the city level. And these are plots that are in the annual report, and they're intended to be kind of a one-stop place for you to go and look at what's happening in your city or your area of interest. So it's going to have a lot of information on one plate. So to describe what we have, first a recent photo of what the beaches look like. On the far right-hand side shows the beach profile transects in this area. That's where these monitoring sites are located. The upper left is the net change along the beach at each of these transects between fall 2000 and fall 2025. So red's going to be losses or erosion. In some of these, you're going to see that it's green or a mix, and that's going to be accretion. There's a lot of specific numbers of beach widths and beach width changes, but I think the most illustrative piece is the time series on the lower left. The blue is mean sea level beaches relative to fall 2000. The red is shore zone volume. Again, that's the amount of material in the active part of the littoral cell out to the depth of closure. They typically will follow each other in trend. And so we can see here at Oceanside, we had gains right after the first regional beach nourishment problem or project. Oops. Here, followed by losses, some more gains after the second project, and then continued losses from then. And currently we're about 40 feet narrower on average through that area than we were in 2000. And then one new piece to these plots from previous years is sand snap results over here where we're documenting the grain size characteristics on the beach. Moving down the beach to North Carlsbad, we see that the net change has been positive, gains of about 50 feet through much of the area. And then when the interesting thing about the time series plots there is you see that we got gains after the first project and the second project that were sustained for long periods. And most recently, in the last decade or more, we've got this modest trend of erosion. So we're getting close to back to where we started. South Carlsbad, this is an area that really has trouble holding on to sand. We've talked about this in the past. And so losses of 50 to 100 feet in this area over the past 25 years and a persistent trend of beach width losses despite placement of sand at Regional Beach Sand 1 and 2. This is an area we've talked about before that could probably benefit from sand retention. Encinitas Leucadia, we received sand here in Regional Beach Sand 1 and 2, and most recently in the Corps of Engineers project in 2024. So superimposed over all of that is this trend of erosion through the entire period, except for the last bit where we get this bounce from the Corps of Engineers project. But despite being a large amount of material, it hasn't brought us back up to the baseline of where we were 25 years ago. And this is just a quick look at the beach widths at Moonlight Beach. And you can see the seasonal sawtooth pattern of summer gains and winter losses and see how the beaches change there. So slightly wider at Moonlight itself than 25 years ago. Cardiff Subreach, it's received sand, Regional Beach Sand 1, 2, and the Slurp project. And you can see these gains were maintained after the first project and the second project. After Slurp, we see this trend of losses, and that could be partially due to its fairly fine sediment compared to what was placed on the beach at Regional Beach Sand 1 and, 2 and 1. Solana Beach probably received the most of any receiver site, and you can see that we just have a trend of persistent gains all the way through. 700,000 cubic yards of sand placed on the beach here, which is why we have such a big increase. Looking closer at Fletcher Cove in the individual beach widths, and we can just clearly see this stair step after each of these projects of sustained gains. We've got 300-foot wide beaches there, 200-foot wider than they were 25 years ago. Del Mar, in this area, we can see that have a general trend of losses after the first project. Did not receive material for Regional Beach Sand 2, but you can kind of see this trend turns around here. So probably receiving some material from Solana Beach, Beach Sand 2, and Slurp. Currently a little bit wider than the baseline condition. Torrey Pines, close to Los Penasquitos Lagoon, has not received any direct sand. So you see a trend of erosion through much of the period, and then it flattens out after material goes on from Regional Beach Sand 2 and Slurp further up coast. The La Jolla Subreach has not received a direct sand placement either, and you can see that it's been pretty stable, really no distinct trend for the last 25 years. Now moving around the corner to Mission Beach, it did receive sand in in Beach Sand 1, and there should be another line on here, but this is Corps of Engineers placing 4 times as much sand as Regional Beach Sand 1 in 2010. But with that influx of sand, it's remained fairly stable over the 25-year period. Now we take a look at Coronado. Again, our monitoring site here is north of the Hotel Del, where the beaches are quite wide. It has not received direct sand placement during this period, and we see this trend of losses that bottoms out around 2023. And in the last couple of years, we've seen that turn around, and we're pretty close to where we were 25 years ago. And finally, Imperial Beach receives sand in Beach Sand 1, Beach Sand 2, and then in here, 300,000 yards from a port project placed in the near shore. So you can see beach width wise, we're about where we were 25 years ago, but we've lost a lot of volume, and this disparity between the two is a little odd and different than what we see at some of the other sites. And I think it's related to not having as many beach profile transects to average this out. And finally, just bringing it all together, each of these sub-reaches from Oceanside down to Imperial Beach, the beach width in fall 2025, the shoreline change trend, what over the last 25 years, how much sand per year are we losing? So Oceanside, 96 feet wide, losing 2 feet per year. And I've just color coded these in the stoplight pattern too, with beach widths less than 100 and a higher erosion rate in red. On the other end of the spectrum, beach widths greater than 200 and accreting. And that's color coded like that. And then you look over on the map itself, I've kind of combined those and assigned up almost like a risk. Is it in good shape, neutral, or in worse shape with the red? So I know we went through that really quick. All of those figures are in the annual report, and I'm also happy to talk with you about those individually now or afterwards, or anytime that you want to dig into your beaches or area of interest.
Thanks, Greg. Now that we just learned about the current state of our coast, I now want to discuss how we prepare this data. For the past 29 years, SANDAG and our consultant have prepared the annual reports in a PDF format that is then posted on the SANDAG website. While this is a good approach, we were brainstorming how can we make this better? How can we make the data more holistic, accessible, and visual? And we can accomplish all of those wants by creating an open data portal dashboard for the Regional Shoreline Monitoring Program. But first, let me take a step back and explain what open data is and an open data portal. Open data is information that can be freely used and shared. So like the US Census, and in this case also our monitoring data, since it's posted on our website. An open data portal is a platform that lets the public view, download, analyze, and explore that data. So SANDAG over the past several years has been working with the vendor to create this type of platform to allow for applications to share the data to the public. It's out of order, but that's okay. We pivot. So the SANDAG already hosts a wide variety of data sets that are currently on our open data portal. And on the screen above, you'll see a few examples of that. So for example, border wait times, flexible fleets, digital divide, youth opportunity pass. So we have a pretty wide variety that we have already been managing. And let me go back one. There are many benefits to having this accessible on our website. So the benefits of having an open data portal really boil down to 3 main, including the first is improving transparency through data sharing on a web-based platform. The second is maximizing accessibility for communities at all levels, whether that be researchers, local jurisdictions, or the public. And the last is promoting diversified content on topics that matter to our region, including socioeconomic, land use, environmental, and in this case, our shoreline monitoring data. By having this diversified, transparent, downloadable data available on our monitoring program, we can make it easier to access not only for stakeholders, the public, but as well as other institutions like Scripps Institution of Oceanography, who then can use that data to compare to what they've already been collecting for monitoring. So we can have a more robust monitoring for the entire coastline of Southern California here in San Diego. And now I will unveil the draft open data dashboard. Now watch me seamlessly make this transition to me controlling the presentation. Hooray. So this is it. This is the draft open data dashboard that we have created. As you can see now, it mostly mirrors those snapshot sheets that Greg was sharing on his presentation, where we have the net change from fall 2000 to fall 2024. We have the beach width charts showing beach width by shore zone volume from fall 2000 to 2024. And we also have included this photo carousel that we have been, SANDAG collects monitoring photos along most of the transects that Greg actually takes this information from. So we also wanted to include some of the photo carousels so we can have a visual for that as well. At the bottom, you'll see you can even open up. Just making sure you can see it on my, not just my screen. Yes. So you can open up these tables and really dig down by transect. All the way at the bottom is you can download all the appendices and the reports. They're all made available and very easily seen. And if you wanted to just, we also have the location map of the transects with the nice color coding. If you wanted to just look at a specific beach, littoral cell, sub-reach, or transect, you can also filter by that function as well. So let's do a specific beach.
Hey, Courtney, is it possible to make the screen bigger?
I have no idea. Did that do it? Yeah. Perfect. You cannot see the map because I zoomed in, but that is okay. It's there. We know it's there. So we have the chart showing by transect how much Mission Beach has been accreting. We have the chart here. Doesn't seem to be loading, but there are photos, I promise, as well as we can then look at by transect. You can see the numbers and the data, and it's also color coded as well to help you even visualize it even more. Let's choose another one. Imperial Beach. See, this is how you can visualize the photo carousel. We have north and south photos, as well as taking out a few of the different transects down in Imperial Beach. You have the chart. I will zoom out just so you can see how the map interacts with this. It doesn't do well with the zooming of my web-based computer sharing, but it's all there. So this is what we have preliminarily made. This is just draft as of this moment. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen. Does it advance? So what are our next steps now that we have this draft dashboard? After today, I'll be reaching out to all of the coastal cities who fund this program on how the steps for granting access to the draft dashboard. Once the access has been granted, there will be a 60-day review period. We are asking for your input. Please send any comments, recommendations, or suggestions that you may have on the draft dashboard to me on my email address, which is listed on the screen above, and we will work on incorporating those enhancements. Moving forward, as you saw, there's not too many data sets. We want to integrate more. There's a lot of data that is incorporated in the annual report that we will be moving into for later phases of this project. We just wanted to get a quick snapshot and information from you all on how does it feel, how does it interact on your end, and if you had any recommendations or something we may not have thought of. So I do want to add the caveat that any small changes that are recommended, that can be accomplished pretty easily. If there's any substantial changes that need to be made or is recommended, that will need to be discussed for future budget discussions. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have and on the dashboard.
Thank you, Courtney. First, let's turn to public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do have public comment. We have in person Gary Murphy, followed by one person online.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and working group. I appreciate you listening to me today. I'm coming here today because when I was at the last meeting here in September, we talked about the sand replenishing and stuff like this. And one of the Army Corps of Engineers representatives brought up two important things that caught my ear, which was the way of putting sand on the beach other than the regional project program. And one was doing a rainbow type spray and the other was a bottom drop barge situation. Since that time, I've did a lot of research, talked to Pacific Maritime, and a lot of the people, the mayor of Encinitas and the representatives from Encinitas, Todd and Kathy. At the last meeting, there was a representative from the Cardiff Lagoon Association. She was concerned about the buildup, and the mayor of Del Mar was concerned that there was a buildup. I really think that we have an opportunity here to use two areas, which Greg just showed the two areas that we have the situation at. He has Cardiff and Solana Beach dumping a lot of sand south, and it's going into the river mouths, and someday they may close up. And if they do, I don't know, we're pretty close right now. But then at the same time, if you take the chart and you go to the red end up in the North Luqadda area, for some reason, the Beacons to Ponto area was kind of left out of the regional program. And so we've got an opportunity here to do a pilot program. And in this pilot program, we could dredge the sand from the river mouths into the barges, move them north to the Luqadda area. And that way we can monitor them through Frontier, how beaches react to this project. I'm sorry I can't tell you more. I'm running out of time, but I'd like to open up your ears and you guys take a thing and maybe we can get it on an agenda in March and talk about this more because I think it'll be beneficial for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
And we have one public comment online, Chair. This is Motorola Edge 2024 again. I'm sorry, two public comments, followed by Luke online. Oh, well, let's go ahead and take Motorola Edge. Please go ahead. All right, why don't you go ahead and submit your comment to clerk of the board at sandag.org. And next public comment is Luke. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, hi, thank you, board, for taking time to hear me. This is Luke with LG Equipment. We're a local contracting company here in San Diego. And I just wanted to bring to the attention that we have about 2.5 million yards of sand in Yuma that is ready to be trucked out to the beaches if needed. We'd be happy to talk more about that and help in any way that we can.
Thank you for your comment.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. All right, let's go ahead and turn to member comments. Does anyone have questions or comments? I'd like to go first. Yes.
Yeah. First question, could you pull up the Encinitas that shows the chart in your presentation, Greg? That would be helpful. I think Gary hit on a comment, and I pointed this out in previous. I just wanted to show that the data supports exactly what we said, that in our USACE program in the the CSDRP, the north from Beacons to Ponto basically omitted the sand replenishment on those, and you can see right there on where the red drops to the right, we see the direct effect. Trying to look. Yeah, because Beacons is where Beacons actually, it's right at the edge. So it got sand from the from the USACE project, the CSDRP. But going north, the northern parts of Leucadia did not get it. So one of the things I've been proposing or promoting here is that in future projects, be it the RBSP 3, that we dump the sand there, not where it was proposed originally. And I think we were headed that way, but this data absolutely supports that. That's why we have that red spot there, is that it did not get nourished during the previous meeting. So I really appreciate a good, measured data-based approach to this, and this helps us. So to Gary's comment about, we're thinking, what other programs can we do, or are there additional? We're expanding our scoop permitting so that we cover this area in particular. We only have a portion of it covered today. Eventually, we want to get a scoop permit that does the entire reach that was omitted from USACE. Possibly in the future, we'll update the USACE program in order to get all the way to the northern border, or all the way to Ponto. And then I have a question. There was a Bataquitos Lagoon dredging, and can we get an update on that? I believe it was postponed. And my hope, our hope, was that when Bataquitos took the dredging and put it on Ponto, that over time that Ponto would migrate south to here. But I hear that it got postponed. So does anybody on staff have any update on the Bataquitos Lagoon dredging?
Mayor, I can give you an update.
Oh.
So the state of California was going to do a major dredging of Bataquitos Lagoon. And they put out a bid, and the bid documents came out much too high for them, so they couldn't afford it. So they put a pause on that. We've asked them when they're going to go out for rebidding, and it's going to be really dependent upon their funding. So they need to figure out what the gap is, and I don't have that gap in mind, but that's the status of that one. There's a smaller project for SANDAG. We're building a double tracking the bridge across Bataquitos Lagoon, and there's going to be some sand coming out of that project this winter, and it will be placed in the area that's on the border between Encinitas and Carlsbad, right there where the sand is needed. But that we're only talking, I think it's like 10, 15,000 cubic yards. So it's not as large as the state's project.
And can you give some numbers on what was anticipated out of the original Bataquitos dredging? Was that hundreds of thousands?
No, it was, I don't have the numbers on top of my head, but what we can do is we can get those exactly for you, unless Todd or Kathy has it. 118,000 is what we're hearing.
And then what was the cost, and that was too high?
I don't know. It wasn't shared. That wasn't shared with us.
Okay.
But we can go ahead and find that information if it's public.
Oh, okay. Sounds like our staff has.
Yeah, I think you guys probably have more inside knowledge on it.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can add to that. Regional Beach Sand 1 included sand up here at Bataquitos, sand down at Beacons, and sand down at Moonlight. So there are 3 receiver sites for Regional Beach Sand 1. Kathy Weld may remember the number. I'm thinking about 450,000 cubic yards total. Regional Beach Sand 2 had just 2 sites, Bataquitos and Moonlight, and probably around 350, 300,000. And then you're right, the Corps concentrated everything down here. And so in the planning for Regional Beach Sand 3, there are more sites included for the same exact reason that you're talking about, that this area up here needs some sand.
Yeah, and in particular, we've got, if you look at Beacon's Beach, it's basically a fault zone with a landslide, and not securing or not supporting that base, the foot, allows it to continue to slide. So we actually had to do a project up on top of the bluff to pull back the parking lot to get it past a current fault line, vertical shear line, I guess is what I would call it. And so anything we can do to put additional sand on the base will stabilize that entire section.
Yeah, and the material from Bataquitos Lagoon is really important. I mean, that's bypassing that sand that would have been coming to you and got trapped in that lagoon. And the procedure that's been done there and elsewhere, pull it out of the lagoon, get it back into the system, let it move back around. And that's been about 100,000 yards every 7, 8 years and then get this one delayed, it sounds like it's going to be more material because it's been longer between, but it's really important to get that on the beach. Remember, Barracudas went in 97, so the beach is, it's not that long ago, really. So it's taken a while for the beaches to adapt to it being there, and these bypassing operations is really important.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Amy.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend you on the open data. I think this is going to be fabulous for us. I love data. So being able to really get a picture of our entire coastline is going to be invaluable. So thank you for all of your hard work. I know how much went into that, and this I cannot wait to dig into it and really see. So thank you again.
Thank you. And also the fact is it's really important that Scripps looks at this and can incorporate that immediately into their projects too. So thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I got a quick question for Greg. If you could bring up that stoplight plot you had for the northern county. Specifically as looking at the relative loss in the north of Del Mar. A lot of folks have been mentioning that the inlet there is getting heavily sediment. Curious if that's reflective of that.
That transect that's there is right on the edge of the river mouth. I don't love that transect because the beach width is not just a function of what a normal beach would do, but it's also how that river mouth's moving in front of that transect. But it's the transect that we have that's 25 years old. So there's, in my mind, always a little asterisk about what's going on there. If it's truly beach processes or it's a combination of beach and processes and where the lagoon mouth is at the time.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Do we have a chart anywhere or a graph that shows the raw draw on our beaches if you were to take out all of the placement of sand material over the years? I'm just curious what that would look like if we weren't have intervening, or if we looked at different sub-reaches that have intervened a lot and a little. I'm just kind of curious if we have that data anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of talking about a sediment budget, right? It's like how much did we put in, how much are we losing, and what's the result on the beach itself. And so there's been numerous general sediment budgets conducted in this area. None that are very recent, but there's one place in the report, if you'll look, that there's a section where we compare the nourishment that occurred prior to 2000. And we said, this is how much you were putting on the beach when you decided, we better do something. And then compare that to the nourishment after. And we're in a deficit between the two now. So the condition that existed when you said, we better do regional beach sand 1, we're putting less on the beach now than then. And you can see that in this project. Look at our slide. The slope of this line, this is what was going on the beach before regional beach sand 2. You can call this cubic yards per year almost. And then it flattens out after, right? So you're putting more on the sand on the beach prior to SANDAG getting involved and after. And that's what SANDAG recognizing that we have a problem, but the reality is these regional beach sand projects probably should be done something like every 5 years. And I think that's something that was in the feasibility study as well.
Just to add on to that, let's wrap it back into the policy discussion. So we have a policy document, SANDAG, it's 1993, and it envisioned a large major effort to put sand on the beach and then to maintain it. And the maintenance of it, 5 to 7 years maintenance. We've fallen as a region woefully short of that. So as part of the policy discussion we need to have, is that still our goal? And if this is still our goal, how do we get the funding to do that? So I invite all the working group members who are interested to join us, and we'll have that kind of discussion over the next 12 to 18 months.
Right, very good. Okay, if there's no more comments on this one, we'll go ahead and move to the next item. Item number 4.3, Surfline Coastal Intelligence Camera Monitoring System. And we have two gentlemen from the Surfline Coastal Intelligence, and they will present on their Surfline camera monitoring system.
Hello. Oh, awesome. Thank you guys for having us. We're super stoked to share what we've been building at Surfline. My name is Austin. I live down the street in Pacific Beach, and I'm here with Paul.
The push button. I'm Paul. I oversee this business here at Surfline. I do not live in San Diego, but my sister-in-law does. So I'm over in Encinitas every other weekend visiting them.
Yeah, Paul's in LA. We've been trying to recruit him for a while, so feel free to do so after the meeting. But yeah, we're super stoked to share the technology. We're taking a camera-based approach to coastal monitoring, and we provide data on the coastal zone, beach economics, and a couple other topics. So we're just going to dive right in and excited to share it. So just getting right into things. Who here is a surfer or knows about Surfline already? Couple folks. So the quick context, Surfline has been around since 1985 to help surfers know when and where to go surfing. I think it's a fun trip down memory lane. We used to actually fax out the surf report. We no longer do this, though I want to bring it back. But anyways, we've had cameras on the coast since 1995. So for 3 decades, we've had coastal cameras. We have the largest coastal camera network globally, so about 1,200 cameras today. And about 8 years ago, in 2017, we started to build machine learning and computer vision to quantify what our cameras were seeing. So how many surfers are out? Is it a busy day or not a busy day? Are the waves barreling and really fun, or are they closing out and not super fun? So the kind of things that a consumer surfer would be interested in. And we realized that all the data the system generates is super relevant for coastal municipalities, coastal engineering firms to design effective projects, regional planning bodies, and lifeguarding organizations. So that's kind of the genesis of Surfline Coastal Intelligence. Super excited to show you what's possible with the system. Yeah. So we have about 60 cameras in San Diego County today. Here's the list. A lot of these sites have a couple cameras. We've had certain cameras installed since 2000. So we have a lot of historical data on our beaches, and we're going to share a snippet of that today. We only have 15 or 20 minutes, so we don't, we're not going to share everything we got, but we have a lot of data on these beaches. The biggest thing here I want to mention is if we have a camera where you want it, great. You can tap into that. Otherwise, we'll install new cameras to get data on the exact zone of interest. So, and bear with us, we have a ton of videos. Hopefully this all works. Oh, no, hold on. Oh yeah, thank you, whoever's running that. Okay, so this is our camera in Ocean Beach. Beautiful day, a couple clouds out. You can see surfers, you can see the waves breaking. So surfers use these cameras to check the surf and see if they want to paddle out. I'm gonna skip ahead, and if you can press play again, please. Here is the video showing our camera intelligence technology. So you can see, if you actually pause it for me real quick. Thank you. Once a second, the system is analyzing everything that's happening in the scene. So a few things to note here. The orange line, that is denoting the shoreline. So where does the water meet the sand? And we provide data on that once a second, every single day of the year through the camera. You can see, it's kind of hard to see. If you actually can play it and then pause it again, perfect. So in the left-hand corner, you can see surfers out in those boxes. We can denote, hey, this person is paddling or this person is sitting there on their board. Just in front of those surfers, you can see the technology also identifying waves. So how many waves are breaking? Where are they breaking? What is the peel angle? And again, how does that change every day of the year? So that's kind of one of the themes we'll touch on today, which is with a single camera, we can provide pretty interesting data on everything that's happening in the surf zone. Cool. Skip ahead. One more. There we go. Okay, so, Paul and I were knocking heads. We're like, hey, what are the big things we hear from folks in SoCal? And our technology, there's kind of 3 main buckets that it adds value. So the first and foremost, most relevant for this group is coastal resiliency. So our system provides data on how the shoreline is changing every day of the year, once a second. Not every beach is super dynamic and losing sand from specific events. So it's maybe not relevant in that context at every beach, but as we all know, certain beaches are very prone to that. And so are there situations where having continuous shoreline data, is it helpful? We'll dive into run up and overtopping. So when flooding events happen, we can quantify those and you can see them on the cameras. We won't nerd out too much. We can do shallow water bathymetry. We can a ton of data on the wave environment, which is obviously super important for planning a beach nourishment and that kind of thing. The second big bucket is all the data we provide on beach attendance. So we believe that this is maybe one of the missing links, which is you know how much sand you're losing, but you don't know how that impacts towel space or how that impacts the people hanging out and recreating at the beach. And so we'll show you a couple examples where we can tell you exactly how many people hang out at the beach and where, how many surfers are out, how many towels can you fit, and how does that change? Hey, you lost 20 feet of sand. How does that impact, people hanging out at the beach? The last bucket, which we won't really touch on today, but the data provides a lot of value for lifeguards. So seeing when and where there's elevated risk, the system can detect boats. So we've seen some demand for that in SoCal in particular. So cool. So we'll get into a couple examples. This is the only video that's not in San Diego County. So go easy on us for that one. The rest are in San Diego. But if you don't mind pressing play, please, real quick. So first of all, you'll notice this is a panning camera. So it pan and tilts and zooms on automatically. And you can see here that, why is that interesting? Basically, it means fewer cameras to get more, data on a wider area. And whoever's doing the video, if you can actually rewind to maybe 5 or 10 seconds in, or a little farther back. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So you can see here all the people on the beach, blue boxes. So we can identify how many people are on the sand and where are they and how does that change every single day of the year. So you can correlate that with weather or with swell or, hey, the July 4th holiday, how many people are hanging out at the beach? The purple boxes, which is only a couple, that delineates someone that is wading in the water. So knee to waist high, which for any lifeguards in the group, they know that those folks are at elevated risk of severe incidents. So that kind of thing is really interesting for lifeguards. And then like I showed you, orange, people out in the water surfing. And I think super important, these cameras, we have 60 public on Surfline for San Diego County. These can be totally private. We know that there's certain communities or neighborhoods where you don't want a public camera, but the data the system generates can be really interesting. We also do facial blurring and we can black out the people because we know, of course, we're very sensitive to that as well.
The only thing to add here is that these cameras don't have any ability to identify individual people. It just identifies that there is an object with the proportions of a human. We'll be releasing some technology here where we blur all those boxes. So it's actually going to be a safer experience moving forward, but no individual ability to collect personal data, PII data, anything like that.
Awesome. So, you saw the camera panning and then we can do a kind of an incredible number of things with this data. On the left-hand side is you can see a heat map of where does everyone hang out on the beach and how does that change again every day of the year. Obviously on the right, we can quantify that in charts and all that kind of thing. But I think what we've heard in SoCal is hey, we lost sand, but we don't know how that's impacting people hanging out on our beach. And so with these heat maps, it becomes very clear. We have a ton of data on San Diego County. As I said, we have 60 cameras. This is a chart of since 2016 in North County, San Diego, how many people are out surfing and how has that changed relative to 2016. And so you can see that at the top of the chart is 2020. There's almost 100% increase in the number of surfers out in North County. I don't know if folks are surfers, they'll know there was the COVID boom, everyone and their mother started surfing. That came down a little bit, but all this to say is we have a ton of data on your beaches and how many people are out there and surfing. And Paul, what do you want to add on this one?
I think the only thing to clarify here is this is all water participation. So it doesn't have to be surfing, but how many people are spending time in the water? And 40% increase in participation is pretty significant over the past 8 years. This data is very granular. We capture this data once a second. So we understand during high tide events, low tide events, when there's water quality issues, pre-storm, post-storm, we have all of this data and it's sitting here. We have a 10-year repository of data in San Diego County that can be leveraged either for these SANDAG projects or for adjacent projects. But we think that the link between beach economics and coastal resiliency is incredibly important. We're here to try and unlock a bit of that.
Okay, so the next topic we'll dig into is more on the coastal resiliency side of house. So if you don't mind pressing play for us real quick. So we showed you the cameras identifying people. It's also fairly trivial for the cameras to differentiate sand from water. So in this case, we can look at things like, hey, how's the shoreline moving? This is a really important part of this is that the camera operates at 1 hertz. So that means once a second, which means that we can track something like a wave that, you know, it's only in the scene for a couple seconds. If we're looking at the data once an hour, that wouldn't be possible. Like we already talked about this, but you know, not every beach is super dynamic. Some beaches, it's kind of helpful to have super continuous, not always. So if you can flip ahead one slide. Obviously, Coastal Frontiers has been capturing amazing data on these beaches for a couple decades now. We're in the process of comparing our existing camera measurements with the available SANDAG data. Early results, knock on wood, are pretty solid. Every coastal engineer I talk to, Nick, all these guys, they're like, hey, has this been validated? And so we're in the process of that. We'll have a white paper soon, but early results are pretty promising. All this data is available in real time in a client dashboard. So, hey, storm rolled through this past weekend. You can see Monday morning, hey, how much sand did I lose? How did the beach profile change by transect through the cameras? Same thing on the attendance side and all of that. If you can press play, please. So we talked about the camera can differentiate sand from water. It can also easily differentiate water from parking lot in this case. So we can quantify overtopping events or flooding. And so you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the blue line is identifying water coming up into the parking lot. Clearly, this is, you know, relatively benign. No one is going to get seriously hurt, but being able to see and quantify the overtopping events we've seen is super helpful. So 2 things, and you can just let it play if you want. 2 things here. Like, first of all, we can notify you guys, like, hey, there was an overtopping event. It's happened 3 times in the last hour by an average of 2 feet. And so maybe not the folks here, but maybe your public works person or your parks and rec stakeholder, they can go check it out and see what's happening. The other interesting thing is we have all of the other data the system generates. So where were waves breaking? Where was there sand in the near shore? How many people were out enjoying the beach this time of day? And you can use that to correlate it with the overtopping event to you know, predict when and where it might happen in the future. And so if you skip ahead one slide, there's another, this, you know, sadly, this happens a lot. This was at the King Tide event a couple weeks ago. I think it's a King Tide again today, funny enough, but the camera was running a couple days before that King Tide. You can see that there was no water in the parking lot. The King Tide happened on the 7th. This is at Seaside Reef, a ton of water in the lot, and our cameras can quantify that. And so having the video we've seen is super helpful for communicating this to your community, to your constituents. Some of the coastal science stuff is a little complicated, but a video is very approachable. Okay, a couple more slides for you guys. So obviously we're Surfline. We love to surf. So we're going to talk about surfing a little bit. You know, we work with the city of Gold Coast, and they've estimated that their surf breaks in just this one city are worth $200 million a year. And granted, they're premier surf breaks and they're amazing, but they are investing a lot of money to quantify how are those surf breaks changing and how does sea level rise impact whether people can surf, when they can surf, and the quality of those rides. We've heard from everyone in SoCal that surfing is not only important economically, but also culturally. You know, we're hosting the Olympics in San Clemente, just north of here. And so anyways, we believe that there's a lot of data that can help you guys manage your surf breaks proactively and just understand them. And so if you press play, this is a very specific example, but you can see, hey, how do takeoff zones change based on the time of the day or based on different swell events or based on different tides? And hey, we have a super huge tide. Are people surfing less or more? And anyways, we could nerd out on this topic all day. Paul, I don't know if you anyone to add.
The only other point here that I think is really important is a lot of the infrastructure and the projects that we're talking about have impacts on surfing, and surfing being such a big part of the culture and the economy. It's important for us to do, as good as studies as we can on surfing, not just in terms of the quality of the waves, but participation and how that's changing over time. So, we're obviously incentivized as surfers and people who love the beach to try and provide this data and support those types of studies.
Okay, cool. This is some sample data, like how many people are catching waves, how long is the average ride? Again, we can talk about this later. Just find us and we can chat. So I know everyone here is familiar with Rebeach. We are super excited to be working with the whole Rebeach team on this. You guys know the context and the goals, just what is Surfline's role? So We have over 10 cameras in Oceanside already. We're tapping into 8 of those for this project, where we will have historical data on surfers and the shoreline and waves. We also installed 5 brand new cameras for this project. You can see those here. 2 are getting really good data on the artificial reef. 1 is at each headland. And then we actually have a camera facing south from the pier to get really good shoreline data along that whole stretch of beach. And so anyways, the Surfline cameras are one piece of that coastal monitoring playbook. They're deploying buoys and doing other measurements, of course, but our cameras and the data will be super helpful to track shoreline position, how does surfing evolve pre and post project, and I think super importantly, what is the impact to neighboring communities? You know, hey, we're doing this big project, how does sand move elsewhere and impact surfing elsewhere? And so anyways, we're so excited to be working on this project. Super briefly, I alluded to this earlier, our data can be helpful for lifeguards. I think more and more we're seeing like, hey, this data is helpful to forecast risk. So, hey, where are people hanging out on the beach and how does that correlate with big waves and stuff of that nature? Being able to see parts of the beach where you maybe don't have guards, so like certain parts of Black's Beach, for example, there's no guards and, you know, that could be a high risk area. So all that to say, one camera can provide data for the coastal zone team, for the economic development. It can also help support lifeguarding operations. Super briefly, but cameras can also identify panga boats and things of that nature. And so we can help to quantify that and you guys can see what's going on. And so, I don't know, just to wrap up, like we are SoCal guys, we're in San Diego. Our CEO is up in Encinitas. And so we're super invested to help preserve these beaches if we can. We have over 60 cameras in San Diego with over 10 years of historical data. I think the biggest thing is like, hey, one camera can provide data on a lot of topics. Anyways, Paul, yeah, wrap us up.
Yeah, I think the really important thing here is when you put a camera up, you're getting data across a number of different aspects, whether it be beach profiles, economic impacts from attendance, things like that, wave climatology. And I think the important thing here is that we can start running really strong correlative analysis to understand how these things are related. So ultimately our goal is to make monitoring cheaper. That's our whole thing. One camera can do many things. And so we're just really excited to work with you all in any capacity. So thanks for the time today.
Thank you. Appreciate that presentation. And I know you've come to Solana Beach to make some initial recommendations for our city. And it sounds like you're in a lot of the cities, but are they in Encinitas already, Mayor?
Not that I know of, other than everybody in Encinitas has the app on their phone.
Very good. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question about the relationship between Surfline, the consumer app, and Surfline Coastal Intelligence. How you organize your division, I think I understand. What is the difference between the two operations?
It's a great question. So I used to run the commercial side of Surfline a year ago and just had this hypothesis that this data would be really helpful. So I went to the CEO and we started a whole new division of Surfline. So all we do is focus on this. It's completely separate from Surfline. So our goal here is to support the needs of coastal municipalities and all the stakeholders there. So it's separate. We structure the business to make sure we meet your needs. The cameras can be private, don't have to be on Surfline. So it is a different division. We have different goals, but ultimately our job is to make beaches safer and more resilient.
But you're using you're leveraging the same data science and software platform, I assume?
Some of the same, yeah. We now have a dedicated team. So there's a team that's just focused on building data science for this project specifically, but obviously there's a lot of relationships. Like if we can detect really strong bathymetry, that could also be really helpful for surfers on the consumer product.
Okay, and do you have a separate P&L? I'm asking, how long have you been a separate division? How long a separate P&L? And what's your longevity? That's where I'm going.
Yeah, so the technology has been around for 8 years. We're 18 months into being a separate entity. So we'll be around moving forward.
Okay, good.
Thank you for that. All right. Do we have public comment on this item?
We do have a hand raised. Motorola Edge, we'll try again. You are self-muted. You there? All right, well, go ahead and send your comment to clerk of the board at sandag.org and we'll get the comment to the committee. That concludes our public comment, Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, let's go to, Jose.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation and for the program. It seems to be very successful in monitoring our coastline. Just a couple of questions regarding the program. Do the cameras have facial recognition?
They've got no ability to identify faces or any other aspects, male, female, size, anything like that. All it does is proportion. So shoulder width versus height, we can detect that it's probably a human.
And who else has access to the cameras or to the data?
The data is on a secure database, so it's only a very small hand of data scientists that have access to that actual code. And then the summarized data is provided to clients who pay for it.
Who are clients?
It could be municipalities, could be coastal engineering firms, but it's all summarized. So, hey, during this 1 hour, we detected 70 people on the beach.
More specifically, do any federal agencies contact you all to have access to the data?
We don't work with any federal agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Super important. Yes, Carol.
Just to clarify, thank you. Do individuals sign up? So instead of riding your bike up to the beach to check out the surf, you could get online and look at this? I don't know.
The way that the Surfline product works is that you can sign up to see the cameras and just the raw footage. There's no annotated video or anything like that. It's just raw footage of what's happening on the beach. So that's what the consumer product is. This product that we're talking about today is an enterprise offering. It's not available to consumers individually. It's meant for municipalities, coastal engineering firms, and other entities that are focusing on coastal resilience or coastal safety.
And then how long do you keep the data? Like, that's a lot of data. Like how many surfers rode a wave, the length, the distance, and the takeoff zones. That's a lot of data to keep on, adding to the cloud or wherever you do. How long does it erase after a certain amount of time?
Some of the video does after a period of time. So we don't save the video indefinitely, but we save still images. The data itself, we don't delete. It's saved in a secure server. And then, it helps us as we improve these algorithms, we can go back and retroactively improve some of the data. So we don't delete any of the data.
And you're right about the king tide today. It's 7.7 because of the full moon tonight. We'll do it. And the low tide is a minus 1.9. So it'd be very low today. Oh no, tomorrow's 1.9. Today's 1.8 minus. So thank you.
Well, and one thing I wanted to add to Paul's comments. So it's pretty cool that we save the video for a period, because if we make updates to the model, we can run that on historical footage. So we work with the city of San Clemente to do a beach economics analysis. And one of the things they've asked us is, hey, can this technology detect birds? So if they're going to do a big nourishment, they have to do wildlife monitoring, which candidly costs a decent amount of money. And so that's one of the things that we're exploring. And so anyways, all that to say, if you guys have other ideas for data you want on your coast, we're always keen to brainstorm and chat about it.
Would NOAA be interested in your data?
I'm sure they would be for some of the data.
Thank you so much. It was a great presentation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. On December 1st, you said that it would be 4 to 5 foot at the harbor. I had to.
We're a separate entity.
For all the surfers. No, thank you. It's really exciting to work with you, and I can't wait to see how we bring the data together, and really thank you for all that you do.
We appreciate you.
That'll be helpful for that project. All right. Anybody else have any other comments? Oh, yes, please.
Just a real quick question. You're talking about measuring shoreline and maybe even bathymetry. Do you calibrate the cameras?
We have a self-rectifying system, and most of the magic here is about rectification. So normally what you would do is go out to a specific site and you would take ground control points, and then you'd calibrate based off of that. Unfortunately, we have 1,200 cameras around the world, and we're not going to send out someone to get ground control points at each one. So we have a self-rectifying system that we built in-house. Having said that, in locations where it's really important that we get things accurate, we do go out and we can get ground control points, and we validate against other data like the SANDAG data to ensure complete accuracy.
Yes, If you have a public comment, you might want to come up. Is there a microphone that you could? Just push the button.
No, we need you in the microphone, please.
I'm just curious if you've had a chance to talk to Scripps and T-Move, I think she's UCLA now, and how you are coordinating your data with what they've been collecting all these years?
We've had some conversations with Scripps, but we're not actively working with them yet. We're still, again, pretty early, 18 months into this project. So we will absolutely be collaborating with as many entities as we can, whether that be public academia or entities like SANDAG. So it's definitely on the agenda. We're having active conversations with multiple different varieties of academia today.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are adjourning, and our next meeting will be Thursday, March 5th next year.